Captain Midnight.
I'm a huge Paul Rudd fan. In everything from role models to Anchorman to cult hits like Wet Hot American Summer, and even in little guest star roles like Veronica Mars or Parks and Recreation. I think he's great. I've seen Already a Brother like 4 times, and seriously, who even remembers that movie? I also like Evangeline Lilly from my days of being a hardcore Lost fan. I thought Ant-Man was great in Civil War, and if you've seen my channel at all, you know I'm always up for a good superhero movie. So why do I watch the Ant-Man and the Wasp trailer and feel almost nothing? To be fair, that may be a little harsh. Don't get me wrong, the movie doesn't look awful by any means. It looks like a solidly crafted superhero blockbuster. But unlike a lot of recent MCU films, it doesn't appear to be anything more than that.
Hey there, little buddies. What you up to? World domination? Can't have that.
But before I totally dive into that, I want to take a step back and talk about the Ant-Man franchise as a whole. Released in 2015, Ant-Man was mostly positively received by critics and fans. It's probably not many people's favorite Marvel movie or anything, but it definitely isn't hated. Another thing that's often brought up, though, when talking about Ant-Man is what it could have been. As most of you probably know, Ant-Man was initially conceived as the passion project of Edgar Wright, director of Shaun of the Dead, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, and most recently, Baby Driver. He'd been trying to get the film made for years, but eventually had a falling out with Marvel that led to Yes Man and Bring It On director Peyton Reed being brought in. And I think he did a perfectly fine job, but I think we all wish we could have seen Wright's version. MCU films are always in danger of feeling stale. What they've done so effectively in the last few years is staying one step ahead of this by making their films more creative and more surprising than you might assume they are going in. Thor starting to feel a little boring? Well, check out this bizarre synthy new comedic Thor from an exciting young director. Or maybe you're down on Spider-Man after a failed series that just ended a few years ago. That's fine, but here's a really well-written John Hughes-inspired take on the character. Marvel has been great at taking the basic foundation of the superhero film and building something new and creative on top of it. But how have they done this, and why doesn't it feel like Ant-Man and the Wasp is doing it too?
I'll be dipped in salsa. It's egghead. Or should I say, deviled egghead.
Well, what Marvel has been doing for a while now is taking elements from other genres and inserting them into the structure of a superhero film. Winter Soldier took inspiration from the paranoid political thrillers of the 70s, Homecoming leans on classic teen films, and in many ways Thor Ragnarok is a comedic riff on cult classic sci-fi and fantasy films like Flash Gordon. But what about Ant-Man? Well, the first one borrowed its structure from a heist film a little bit, but this sequel looks more like a straightforward superhero movie than anything Marvel has released in a while. The director has said that he's aiming for it to be a comic book rom-com in the past, but that's not really the sense that you get from it watching the trailer. And I'm not saying it looks terrible or anything, it looks like they've come up with some really fun, creative way to use Ant-Man and the Wasp powers. And I'm looking forward to those scenes, but I think we should expect something more than cool special effects in our blockbuster entertainment. I want a movie that at least tries to do something unique and interesting. And from what we have to go off so far, which, granted, is only one trailer, seems to indicate a fairly average, middle-of-the-road action film with a few cool touches. But there is something in the trailer that might be interesting. The small glimpses we get at the quantum realm, a subatomic dimension with no concept of time or space. They touched on it a bit in the first movie, but I'd love to see this film really delve into all the possibilities of the quantum realm. It's a great sci-fi concept and something that could help set Ant-Man and the Wasp apart from most superhero movies. Not to mention all the crazy visuals you could mess around with. And as we've seen from Guardians of the Galaxy, having a vibrant, unique visual style and color palette can do your movie a lot of favors and help it develop its own identity.
I don't see what's so funny. Is there something wrong with being Ant-Man?
And that's what this trailer was missing for me, I think, an identity. It looks like a fun movie in the Marvel House style, but this isn't 2010 anymore. Audiences know exactly what to expect from that now. And the studio knows that, which is why they've embraced more unique looks like Black Panther's Afrofuturism. For a superhero movie to be successful now, it needs to embrace what makes their character different. And maybe the quantum realm could provide that for this franchise. Unfortunately, unlike Ryan Coogler, I'm not sure if Peyton Reed is a strong enough visual filmmaker to do something like that. He seems more like a comedy-first director. But then again, so is Waititi, so maybe he'll surprise me. Not that it's all bad. Evangeline Lilly felt pretty wasted in the first film, so I'm happy to see her take on a co-starring role here. It also looks like they're going to tie into the story of Civil War, and we see in the trailer a flashback to the airport battle, much like Homecoming did. Ant-Man's role in that fight was one of the highlights of all of Civil War, so it's cool to see it make a little return here. We also get to see a little more Giant Man action, which I hope there's a lot of in this movie, because Scott switching between the two roles is actually one of my favorite things about the character. Ultimately though, I want the filmmakers to ask this question. What makes Ant-Man special? What's the thing that sets him apart? Is it that he's funny? He definitely is, but there's a lot of funny MCU movies these days, so that's not much to go on. Is it his powers? Yeah, they're cool, but a character needs more than just cool looking powers. Maybe it's the fact that he's one of the only main characters in the MCU that's a parent. That's definitely something that could be explored more. And then of course there's his romance with the Wasp, which judging by the director's statements, but not really this trailer, is going to be a central component to the film. Come on, most superheroes have a romantic subplot in their movies, so this one will need to be very well executed to stand out. And I think that's ultimately my problem with the Ant-Man and the Wasp trailer. It looks entertaining, and Marvel's quality control is high enough that I trust them to make a fairly well done film. But I'm not sure what it's attempting that I haven't seen already done in the MCU. It's missing that special hook in its trailer that Civil War, Ragnarok, Black Panther, and many more have had, that puts out the clear message: we're trying something new, and you have to see it. Now maybe a future trailer can change that perception, I don't know. But until then, this movie feels resigned to be a footnote in the year of Black Panther and Infinity War.
Here's a special tip for the fellas and girls who have not already joined Captain Midnight's new 1940 Flight Patrol. You'd better hurry up and join at once, because there's a big adventure ahead. The thing to do now is to get started, because we're going to have not only barrels of fun, but loads of free gifts and prizes.